My mother said it so casually, like it was nothing. "There's just no room for the kids this year, Layla." Her voice was soft, polite, like she wasn't cutting my children out of Thanksgiving again. I glanced at the photo she'd just posted, my sister's twins, smiling by the lake house fireplace. Even their golden retriever had a monogrammed blanket. My kids, not even a mention. That was the moment something in me went still. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, hung up, and bought something they'd never expect: a penthouse in New York with more space than their excuses ever had. And when they heard about it, their tone changed fast. "Layla, we're all coming to your place this year." "Sure you are." Before I tell you how that conversation ended, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because this time I finally made room for the truth. My name is Layla Carter. I'm 34, a mother of two, and the middle child of a family that never quite noticed I existed. My sister Natalie was the golden one, 3 years older, born with that effortless shine that made teachers, neighbors, and especially our parents fall over themselves to praise her. My little brother Drew was the baby, soft-spoken, and easy to love. And me, I was the quiet space between them, the reliable one who didn't cause trouble, but never quite earned applause either. We grew up in a tidy Connecticut suburb where lawns were clipped and people waved just long enough to keep up appearances. My father worked as an accountant. My mother taught 3rd grade. They loved structure, predictability, and reputation. At family dinners, the conversation always circled around Natalie, her perfect grades, her debate, trophies, her college plans. I learned early how to smile at the right time and pass the salt without being asked. When I left for college in Boston, no one really asked what I wanted to study. I picked finance because it was practical, solid, and somehow that practicality turned into passion. I built my career one long week at a time, late nights, long flights, climbing the ladder, until I became an investment director. Somewhere along the way, I met Aaron, my ex-husband. He was charming, ambitious, and for a while we made sense. 2 people with plans, goals, spreadsheets of dreams. We married young, bought a small house, had Lily and James, and I thought I had finally built a family where everyone had a place. But love is fragile when you're both exhausted. Aaron's work pulled him west, mine tied me east. He started chasing excitement. I craved stability. The divorce wasn't explosive, just cold papers, signatures, shared custody and silence. I kept the kids, the mortgage, and the routine. I became the kind of mother who packed lunches with notes and scheduled bedtime stories between conference calls. That first Thanksgiving after the divorce, I thought my parents would rally around us. Instead, my mother called the night before and said softly, "Maybe you should come alone this year, honey. It's crowded with Natalie's twins and the dog." The words slid in quietly but cut deep. I remember setting down the phone, looking at my children asleep on the couch, and realizing I'd inherited more than my parents' calm. I'd inherited their hierarchy. And I promised myself right then the cycle ends with me. The next few holidays followed the same cruel rhythm, an invitation that wasn't really an invitation, followed by photos that said everything they wouldn't. By the second year, I could predict the script before my mother even called. Her voice would tremble just enough to sound regretful. "Sweetheart, Natalie's bringing the twins again, and you know how your father gets when the house is full. Maybe next time." Next time never came. On social media, I'd scroll through pictures of their perfect gatherings. Natalie's children in matching pajamas. My parents beaming in front of a 12-foot Christmas tree. Even Bentley, their golden retriever, had his own stocking hanging above the fireplace. And every time my kids would ask the same innocent question, "Why doesn't Grandma want us there?" I never had a good answer. So I'd bake cookies, put on a movie, and pretend the 3 of us were too busy being happy to care. But when Lily once whispered, "Do you think Grandma likes the dog more than us that night?" I cried in the shower so they wouldn't see. Still, I kept playing the role of the peacekeeper. I sent gifts, texted updates, even offered to host. Nothing changed. Then came the 4th of July call. Layla, my mother began about the lake house weekend we're running out of beds. The basement flooded and the screen porch isn't safe for sleeping. It was so practiced, so rehearsed, I almost laughed. But I didn't. I just said, "That's fine, Mom. Maybe another time." Later that evening, Drew texted me, "You wouldn't believe it. They just redid the basement." New carpet TV and a game table for the twins. No sign of water damage. He sent a photo. Natalie's kids grinning in the room my mother had sworn was unusable. And in the background, a framed sign above the couch read, "Family makes this house a home." That picture burned in my chest. It wasn't about space. It never had been. It was about who they chose to make room for and who they didn't. The next morning, Lily overheard a video call with her cousin Emma. Emma's voice carried that practiced smugness only a 10-year-old who'd learned it from her mother could manage. "Grandma says your apartment's too small for big dinners," she teased. "She likes coming here better." I froze in the hallway. Lily hung up quietly, then turned to me with those wide, searching eyes. "Mom, is that true?" I knelt beside her. "No, baby. Our home is just right for us. Some people only see value in what looks big, but they forget what's real." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and realized something simple but irreversible. I was done being grateful for scraps of affection. They'd made it clear my children didn't belong in their house. So I decided I'd build one they'd never forget. When you've spent your whole life being the one who stays quiet, there's a strange calm that comes before you finally stop. That calm found me the night I opened my laptop and searched for New York penthouses for sale. I wasn't looking for luxury, I was looking for a reset. The next few weeks became a secret mission. Between school drop-offs and investor meetings, I toured apartments online with my financial advisor, Jennifer Torres. "You're in a strong position, Layla," she said, scrolling through listings. "You could buy something incredible." I did. A 4-bedroom penthouse on the Upper East Side, floor-to-ceiling windows, a rooftop terrace, a kitchen that gleamed like a promise. I pictured Lily's art supplies spread across the dining table, James building Lego towers in the sunlight. Space. Real space. Not just square footage, but belonging. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone but Tyler, my oldest friend. When I showed him the photos, he just whistled. "This isn't revenge," he said. "This is evolution." By fall, the kids and I were spending weekends in the city. We decorated slowly, plants, cozy rugs, rooms that felt alive. Lily painted a mural of Central Park across her bedroom wall. James wanted constellations on his ceiling that glowed when the lights went out. One night, standing on the rooftop with them, I looked over the skyline and thought, they'll never be able to say there isn't room again. And then the phone rang. My mother's number. "Layla, about Thanksgiving," she began, her tone overly sweet. "We're hosting again, but Natalie's bringing the twins and the dog, so it might be a little tight." "That's okay," I cut in, my voice steady. "I won't be coming this year. The kids and I are hosting Thanksgiving at our new place in New York." A pause. Then curiosity flickered through her politeness. "New place? Yes. A penthouse on the Upper East Side." There was a beat of silence long enough to hear her mind rearrange itself. "Oh my goodness, Layla. That sounds spectacular. Perhaps we could all come there this year instead. You have the space now." There, it was the shift. Years of no room vanished the moment there was something they wanted. I smiled into the phone. "Let me think about it." But in my heart, the decision was already made. They'd mistaken my silence for weakness. Now they were about to learn the difference. The next few days felt like déjà vu, only this time the tone of every text was different. Polite, eager, fake. First came Natalie. "Mom says you bought a penthouse on the Upper East Side. Which building?" I gave her as little as possible. "Just moved in," I replied. "We're keeping it simple this year." "Perfect," she texted back. "The twins have always wanted to see the Thanksgiving parade in person. We'll stay with you, it'll be fun." Then came my father. "Your mother and I think it would be wonderful for everyone to celebrate together at your new place. We can bring dessert." Even relatives I hadn't heard from in years started sending messages. "We'd love to see your new home, Layla." The same people who couldn't make room for my children suddenly found all the space in the world for themselves. Tyler shook his head when I told him. "They're not coming because they love you," he said. "They're coming because they love how it looks." He was right. When my father called again, his voice carried that old authority, the one that used to make me fold. "Layla, it'll mean a lot to your mother if we could all come. Family is important, especially now that you've done so well for yourself." I let the silence stretch. "You mean now that I finally have something you respect?" Don't start that again, he said sharply. We love all our children equally. Equally, I repeated, tasting the word like something sour. Is that what you told Lily and James when they slept on air mattresses while Natalie's dog had my old room? He started to sputter, defensive as always, but this time I didn't fill the quiet. I just said, Dad, anyone who didn't make room for my kids before doesn't get a seat at our table now. I hung up before he could respond. The morning of Thanksgiving arrived crisp and bright. The terrace glowed under the November sun, set with candles and white linen. Tyler and his wife were already there carving turkey and laughing with the Johnsons, our neighbors from Boston who'd made the trip. Drew showed up last, holding flowers and guilt in equal measure. I should have said something years ago, he said quietly. You shouldn't have had to go through that alone. Then don't let it happen again, I told him. By mid-afternoon, the place was alive with the kind of warmth I hadn't felt in years. Laughter, music, kids chasing each other through hallways too big for old pain. Lily moved confidently among the guests, proud of the place cards she'd made by hand. James gave tours of his glow-in-the-dark ceiling like a proud realtor. At 4:30, the elevator chimed. My parents stepped out holding a pie and a forced smile. Layla, my mother said, breathless, "This is extraordinary." "Thank you," I said evenly. "Dinner's over, but you're just in time for dessert." They exchanged a glance, realizing this wasn't the triumphant arrival they'd imagined. When Lily and James appeared in the doorway, everything went still. My father cleared his throat. "Lily, James, we wanted to say something." He knelt down, awkward, unused to the position. "We haven't been the grandparents you deserve. We made excuses instead of space. And that was wrong." My mother's eyes filled as she knelt beside him. "Can you forgive us? We'd like to do better if you'll let us." The room held its breath. I didn't say a word. This moment wasn't mine to answer. Lily looked at me, then back at them. "Will you come to my art show next month?" she asked softly. "Of course," my father said quickly. James crossed his arms. "And can we sleep at your house sometimes? Not on the floor." My mother nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You'll have your own rooms, sweetheart." They hugged, small and careful, as if touching something fragile. Around us, everyone exhaled the kind of collective release that only happens when a truth finally lands. But not everyone had learned. At that exact moment, Natalie's name flashed across my phone screen. "Natalie, can't believe you didn't invite us. Mom said it's incredible up there." The twins were so excited. "Natalie, Bentley's sad too, LOL. Then you're being dramatic, Layla. It's Thanksgiving. Stop making everything about you." I typed slowly. "Actually, Natalie, for once, it's about my kids. And if you ever want to be part of their lives again, you can start by apologizing to them, not me." She didn't reply, but I saw her typing bubble blink vanish, then return like someone choking on pride. When I looked up, Drew had been watching me. "She'll never admit it, you know," he said. "I know," I replied. "But that's her burden, not mine." Outside, the city hummed beneath the fading light. From the terrace, we could see the edge of Central Park glowing gold. Lily leaned on the railing beside me. "Mom, it feels good here," she said. "It does," I agreed, "because everyone here wants to be." My father joined us, quieter now, smaller somehow. "You've built something beautiful, Layla," he said. I nodded. I built what I needed. He looked out over the skyline, eyes distant. "Your mother and I, we thought we were doing our best." "I know," I said softly, "but good intentions don't fill empty chairs." Behind us, laughter rose again, real, unforced, echoing through the open doors. I took one last look at the table where my children's names were written in their own handwriting. Lily, James, always room for us. And for the first time in years, that sentence felt true. Over the next few months, the air between us shifted in small but undeniable ways. My parents started calling, more often not to pry, but to ask about the kids. True to their word, they came to Lily's art show that December. My father stood in front of her watercolor of Central Park and said quietly, "She's got your eye for detail." It wasn't much, but it was the first honest compliment I'd heard from him in years. They began showing up for the little things too, James's school play weekend lunches, even helping with science projects over video calls. It was awkward at first, like strangers learning a new language. but each time the edges of old resentment softened just a bit. I didn't rush it. I let them earn their way back, one consistent gesture at a time. Drew became a steady presence visiting the penthouse whenever he could. He'd bring groceries, play board games with the kids, and tell me stories about how Dad had started clearing out the old lake house. How he'd finally removed that framed family makes this house a home sign. He says it never sat right with him after what happened, Drew told me. Maybe guilt could be useful when it finally turned into reflection. Natalie stayed silent. There were no apologies, no olive branches, just distance. And honestly, that was fine. Not every story needs reconciliation. Some just need closure. My kids stopped asking about her and I didn't bring her up. Peace sometimes means subtraction. Professionally, things bloomed. The firm promoted me to managing director, and I started mentoring younger women who reminded me of myself, ambitious, talented, trying too hard to fit into spaces that didn't deserve them. I told them what I'd finally learned: never beg for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own and set the rules yourself. One Saturday in early spring, I woke to the smell of pancakes. Lily and James had taken over the kitchen flour on the counter, laughter spilling across the marble. When I asked what the occasion was, Lily grinned. "We're practicing for next Thanksgiving," she said. "We're hosting again, right?" I smiled. Always. As we ate breakfast on the terrace, sunlight spilling through the city haze, I thought about how far we'd come from sleeping on air mattresses to building something no one could take away. It wasn't the penthouse that made it feel whole. It was the peace, the laughter, the certainty that in this space, every inch belonged to love. That spring evening, I stood alone on the rooftop as the city lights blinked awake one by one. The terrace was quiet now, except for the faint sound of my children laughing inside. For years, I had mistaken silence for peace, thinking that if I didn't fight back, things would stay calm. But peace without respect is just suppression, and silence only protects the ones who hurt you. I thought about all the no-room excuses, all the holidays I'd spent pretending it didn't sting. They'd taught me something I never learned in business school: boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you decide who can walk through. Downstairs, Lily and James were setting the dinner table, 2 plates, a vase of fresh tulips, place cards they'd written themselves. Mom James called, "We saved you the best seat." I looked at those little cards, always room for us, and felt the kind of warmth that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. So if you've ever been the one left out, the one told there wasn't space for you, remember this: you don't need permission to take up room. You build your own table. You decide who earns a seat. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever had to stand up to your own family? I read every message, and your stories remind me none of us are alone in this. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more real stories about family and quiet revenge, and never forget the most powerful room you'll ever create is the one you make for your own self-respect.